Good afternoon, Margaret and Benjamin. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you. Hello.
Good to hear you. Margaret, can you hear me? There's a mic icon at the bottom right of your screen, it should be, where you'll be able to hear me. Margaret, you still here? Hi, Emily, how you doing? There's a mic icon at the bottom right of your screen, Emily and Margaret.
Nice to see you. Nice to hear you, I guess.
Good to hear you too. I think Margaret's been a bit shy today, but hopefully she'll be able to find the mic. Right, shall we go live?
Let's go for it.
Let's do this. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for tuning in today. This is our 131st Startup Talent Q&A. We used to do them on Clubhouse, where we got over 260,000 people joining us. And now we've swapped and do them here on LinkedIn. However, as we speak, we're also live streaming this to YouTube and Facebook. The only caveat is that if you're on YouTube or Facebook, unfortunately, I'm not able to see any comments you make there. So if you do want to ask any questions, please go to LinkedIn and search for Startup to Scale Up Club. And there you'll be able to find this live room and you can come up and ask the question live. So we're doing this to help founders with whatever questions you may have on your talent journey, whether you want to know how to find a co-founder or perhaps where to find a certain skill or how to make sure that you interview them right, or perhaps how much to pay somebody, or how do you decide what kind of tasks should be done by one person and what sort of tasks by another one, and anything between that and empowering people, training them, and beyond that too. All you have to do is raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage. You introduce yourself and then fire away with your questions. We run 4 regular rooms per week. On Mondays, it's talent. Tuesdays, product and tech. Wednesdays, growth. And Thursdays, fundraising. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And everyone and anyone's welcome. If you do have any such questions, just raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage and then fire away with your questions. I am going to do, we're going to do some introductions, and also I'm going to share this with our my social media here on LinkedIn, but also on other platforms. Please feel free to do the same. So I guess I'll start. My name's Anton Cole. I'm an Albanian in London. Normally, I used to do quite a bit of work with startups as a talent partner. I'd embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people once they got some investment. But lately, I'm mostly focused on the Startup to Scale Up Club, although there is still some work that I'm doing on startup talent. I also do some growth advisory, and lately I've been helping some angels with their due diligence and assessment. And I've got 4 brilliant people with us today. We'll start with Margaret, then Benjamin, then Emily, then Rosie. Take it away, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Margaret Buj. I have been working in the talent space for close to 2 decades. I've worked as a recruiter for many tech organizations, from startups, Series A, B, C, and D, to global tech organizations, and I've recruited very internationally as well, across Europe, a bit in the Middle East, in LATAM and in the USA as well. I'd be happy to help with anything related to hiring, interviewing, also training. I do a lot of interview coaching and training as well.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Black. I am an HR professional who, with many years' experience advising businesses of all sizes, from large corporates to small micro businesses, specialize in looking at engagement as well as mergers and acquisitions. So any questions, I'm more than happy to discuss.
Hi, I'm Emily Koolen. I've been in the people HR space for quite some time, across a few different continents. And my focus these days is coaching founders and leadership teams and building companies on the people strategy side, as well as doing basically training to get teams unstuck.
Hi everyone, I'm Rosie Hewat. I am founder of Rosie's People, HR and Business Operations Consultancy. I have been working and supporting businesses for over 2 decades across the startup, fintech, and general business operations space, and happy to be here to answer some questions, providing 360 support.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I really appreciate you joining us today. We're going to be here now for the next 54 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, you might want to perhaps write them down first. We've got a comments section. So if you click on the 3 dots right above on top of your screen, top right-hand corner, you'll then be able to see view event details, and then there's a comments section. You can start with that, or you might just want to raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage live, and then we'll take it from there. Today, as you can see, it's Startup Talent Q&A. So anything to do with startup HR, hiring, interviewing, salaries, training, and all that jazz. Whilst we're waiting for some people to come up, perhaps our team wouldn't mind giving us their biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage hiring, in terms of early stage startups in the UK, ideally, but you know, they can be quite universal. So let's start from the bottom this time. Rosie, Emily, Benjamin, and then Margaret.
Thank you very much. So I would say for me, my do's and don'ts, when you're a startup and you're looking to hire, make sure you actually know what you're looking for. I always call it a shopping list. I make sure you've done your skills analysis and figured out what's actually missing from your team. Be very honest. You know, you're dealing with adults. If you can't afford to pay people market rate, be very open and say, I can't pay you market rate, but this is what I'm offering. And offer some flexibility with that, you know, maybe beef it up with some equity. My don'ts would basically be don't lie, don't overpromise. Don't tell people that you can do something that you already know that you can't do, and get them in under false pretenses. There's a lot more that I could say on this point, but I want to leave some for my colleagues.
I would add to that some great points from Rosie. I would add that one of the biggest do's I think that founders need to do is they do need to hire people they can trust. And if you don't think you're going to trust anybody, then you probably aren't at the stage of hiring yet, because you can't do it all. And there's no point bringing people on board that you can't actually allocate work to and delegate and allow them to be the decision makers. So if you can't do that, you know, you have to revisit how you're going to grow the team.
I would add a few more things there. I would say, do think about the skill sets you need now, and think about whether they will actually be needed later. So if you're going to put a proposition together, think about, is this person that I'm hiring someone I need now, maybe in for 2 years, maybe 3, but actually if this business goes in the direction I want it to go, maybe they're not going to be someone who's going to be around for very long. And I think it's really important to be realistic about what you're looking at now and the different needs that a brand new startup has from a more established scale up and then onto a bigger business. It depends on your ambitions for your own business, obviously, but really think about that, and don't assume, and so it's a don't as well, assume that the people you need now are the people you're going to need later. And the other, I always say this, don't, unless you're doing it together or you are absolutely convinced they're the best person, don't just hire friends and family, because why not? It will probably lead to disaster. So only hire your friends and family if they offer the right skills you need now, or if it's a collaborative effort, obviously, and you're working 50-50 with a friend or a family member. But don't just give jobs to your mates, because that is really potentially going to set you up for some disaster later on.
It's in my turn now. So in terms of do's, just to mention something different, do offer growth opportunities. So most candidates aren't just looking for a job, they want a career. So emphasize the growth opportunities that your startup offers, such as skills development, mentorship programs, if that's what you offer, potential for advancement, which in fairness, most startups do offer that. Maybe not so much the mentorship, but typically you can learn quite a lot. And don't also, so in terms of do, you also want to, on one hand, you don't want to make the process too long, but on the other hand, you might be keen to hire someone ASAP, but at the same time, you still shouldn't neglect the proper interview process. So that doesn't mean that you need to have 5 or 6 interviews, but typically you kind of want to really understand like how this person would fit in within your organization. So apart from doing perhaps some behavioral interviews, you also might want to give them some kind of a task or a presentation that doesn't need to take long. In fact, I would recommend you don't give them something that takes days to prepare. But it's a good idea, like if it's a salesperson, to ask them to prepare a presentation, or just to give them some kind of task to see how they would perform on the job. And in terms of don'ts, I would say don't make the hiring process overly long. You really want to avoid a hiring process that takes weeks or even months to complete. This can frustrate potential candidates and just give the impression that your startup is disorganized, and also that you just really don't know what is it that you're looking for. So you want to aim for a streamlined, efficient process that respects the candidate's time. And also, someone already said that, like, don't overpromise and underdeliver. Like, honesty is so important. Don't overpromise what you can't deliver to entice candidates, because if you can't provide certain benefits, opportunities, or salary levels, just be really upfront about it. Transparency really is key to building a trusting relationship from the start, and that doesn't just go for startups. That really goes for any other organization. I actually remember one situation from a big company I was recruiting for, when the candidate left within 3 months because the role was not what was sold to them during the interview process. So it was obviously a complete waste of time. So you want to avoid those situations and be upfront from the start.
Well, thank you very much to all 4 of you. I wish LinkedIn Live Audio allowed for a fire icon or GIF to launch, because you are on fire today, and I really appreciate your advice. Right here, a quick reset of the room, and then we'll start with some questions that were sent in to us. And if anybody is either on YouTube or Facebook, just remember, I can't see your comments there, so you need to head over to LinkedIn and search for StartUp to ScaleUp.club, and then join us live here, and we'll be able to take your questions. So a quick reset of the room then. This is Startup Talent Q&A. We're here to help startups with whatever questions you have on your talent journey. Anything from finding a co-founder to perhaps those early stage employees, where to find them, how to interview them, how to dish out the duties and tasks that they need, how to train and empower them, and anything beyond that too. All you have to do is raise your hand, we'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away with one of your questions. In the meantime, please feel free to share this. The more the merrier. And by the way, we do 4 rooms per week: Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And if you head over to startup to ScaleUp.club, you'll be able to also sign up to our newsletter, but also RSVP to any sessions you want. We'll go on with the first question that was sent in. This is an EdTech platform for remote learning. They're in Leeds. They're not sure what to call this stage, but they think it's Series A, since this is the 3rd time they've raised. The founder is an educator of background, and the problem they have is transitioning contractors to full-time employees. So then she goes on to say, should I hire full-time employees or keep going with contractors, especially as my team is international and scattered across time zones? So again, it's an EdTech platform for remote learning, and she wants to know, should I hire full-time employees or keep going with contractors, especially as my team is international and scattered across time zones? she's based in Leeds. So this time, perhaps we can start with Margaret, then Benjamin, then Emily, then Rosemary.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I don't really think we have enough information here to say what she should be doing, because, you know, what's her budget? What are the functions? Can she find these people easily in a specific location? So I think, do we know how many employees she has and where they're based?
They're based in Leeds,
Yeah.
and
But
I have
the
no
employees,
idea.
the employees she has.
No,
Yeah, I
she
mean,
just sent this question in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so in my opinion, there isn't enough information, because it depends on so many different factors. So, for example, you know, it depends on the budget. It depends on how easy it is to find this specific individual, the skills that she needs, say in the UK versus in other locations. What's the budget that she's looking to pay? You know, does she have enough work for a full-time employee, or would hiring contractors make sense in this case? You know, the company I'm currently recruiting for, 𝗦𝘁𝗨𝗏, where I hire mostly for product and engineering positions. We hire contractors globally, and again, we are scattered around the world. We use a platform called Deal, D-E-E-L, but there are also platforms like remote.com, or I think Papaya as well, which enable you to hire people in countries where you don't have a legal entity. So, you know, that's what we do, which enables us to hire people in, just many different locations around the world. We have people in many countries in Europe, in Latin America, even in Africa. So, you know, for us it works, but it's very difficult to say, should I be hiring contractors or permanent employees? Because we don't know enough about the business. We don't know enough about the priorities of the business. You know, what are these roles that she's actually recruiting for? Is there enough demand, you know, for full-time positions? Can she find these skills set easily in the UK versus in other countries? So I don't really know how I can answer that properly.
No.
There isn't a yes or no answer here, in my opinion.
It's true. That makes sense. Thank you, Margaret. Anybody else want to add anything, or shall we move on to another question?
I would just add that, similar to what Margaret said, is, you know, in every hiring situation, you need to evaluate the cost of the hire, the administration of the hire, and the value that hire would bring. And it doesn't matter if they're trying to expand internationally or not. That sort of analysis has to happen every single time. And so I think, given that we don't have a lot of details, I think that as long as that analysis happens, then they can determine how and where and what they need to expand to, or how she does that.
That totally makes sense. Benjamin, Rosie, anything, or shall we move on to the next one?
I'm happy to move on, to be honest, Anton.
Fair enough. Sorry, Rosie. Go.
I said same. I think we don't have enough.
That's true. And that is why I am not the biggest fan in the world of these questions being sent in. So if you are listening, I get it. Some people either may not be able to join us live, or some people may be at a stage where they don't want to reveal, or they think they don't want to reveal to the world what they're doing and so on. But the thing is, if there's anything I've learned, is that the people that can steal what you're doing, they haven't got the cojones to do that, and the ones that do, they haven't got the time. So you're, wasting yourself away by hiding under a rock, basically. Nevertheless, another quick reset again for those of you that are tuning in via Facebook or YouTube. We're not able to see your comments, but please do feel free to join us live here on LinkedIn. If you come to LinkedIn, you just type StartUp to Scale Up Club. You'll find our page and this event live. On the other hand, if you're here in the audience and you think there's somebody that might benefit from this, please either send it to them directly as a message, or just share it with your network. The more the merrier. And if you've got any questions, obviously, please feel free to raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away with your questions. And this is the place to ask anything to do with your startup talent. So let's go to another question. This came from our Go London. No, sorry, not London. Wow. Okay. So this is all the way from Glasgow, a fashion tech planning to use augmented reality for virtual try-ons. We're in Glasgow. We're at seed stage. I'm a fashion designer, and I have some trouble finding developers with niche AR skills. How would I convince AR developers who are normally often fascinated by gaming, where there's also more money, rather than joining a fashion focused startup? So, again, how can I find a way to convince AR developers to join a fashion focused startup rather than gaming, where they normally tend to go and earn much more money? Let's start with Rosie this time, then Emily, then Benjamin, then Margaret, please.
Thanks, Anton. Interesting question, that. I think that with most things, if you're trying to attract a demographic of people that are not normally, I suppose, rushing to come work in your sector, flexibility will have to be key. So if you started off even making some of the roles quite flexible, quite fractional, so that they get a chance to have a taste of the work and determine whether it's interesting enough for them to come on board full time. That might actually help you to reach that particular demographic. And of course, budgets for both sectors would be different, I would guess. So, for a lot of technologists, the work has to be interesting, and when the work is interesting enough for them, and it has a level of innovation attached to it, they will probably be very keen to be able to play around with what you're trying to do, and be able to actually add to that story. I often, when I advise some of my clients, it's, if you're willing to be flexible, you may get to work with people who wouldn't normally even have a look at you. So that flexibility allows you to tap into the demographic that you're trying to reach, but also gives them a little bit of that security to dip out if they realize it's not for them. And it gives you that chance to do your pitch with them, and make sure that they see that the work is interesting, and what else can you offer. Outside of the flexibility and the work itself, it's also the type of people that they'll be working with. As you all know, your environment and the people that you get to work with every day can make a big difference, whether it's remote or in person, can make a big difference on whether you stay in an organization for 1 minute or for 20 years. Sometimes people stay somewhere because they love the people they work with, they love the culture, they love the environment, and it goes beyond the work itself. It's like that environment adds to the fulfillment for them. So also making sure that you've sort of thought about how to ensure that your environment is inclusive and welcoming, and maybe doing some analysis on that as well, beyond, what are you offering in terms of compensation and the actual work? What else can I do to make people want to come and work here, that goes beyond the actual day-to-day, because it needs to be a place where people can do good work. And of course, you may need to look outside of your local, if you can't find them locally. Again, going back to that flexibility point, and of course, making sure that you are, looking at regulations so that you don't end up hiring people the wrong way. And as Margaret mentioned earlier, there are companies like Deal and Globalization Partners that offer employer of record services that might be worth looking at. But as with most things, everything comes down to how much do you actually have available for this at this stage of your growth. And what can you actually offer beyond salary and flexibility? What else can you offer to make the environment attractive and the company attractive to people? I'll stop talking now so that others can say something.
Thank you, Rosie. Emily?
Thanks, Rosie. I would agree with everything you've said. I would add in, or maybe emphasize rather, the why. If you're looking for a skill set that is going to benefit you, but you know that it's coming from maybe a different sector, figure out what the why is to attract people to say that fashion industry or the fashion vertical versus the gaming vertical. So I think you could probably really highlight that why, as well as the crossover skill sets. Maybe there's people in the gaming world who are a little sick of working in that world and they want something a little bit different. So highlight what that crossover skill set is and what other development or skills that they can work on while they're in a new vertical. So, I mean, it's a tricky skill set probably to hire in general, but I think if you can really highlight the benefits, the why, and where their development areas are, I think you may see some, quite interesting people apply for it.
Benjamin, any
Hi
thoughts?
there.
Thanks,
Sorry.
Emily.
Yeah, I think there's something really interesting here. I think it sort of goes off the back of what Emily just said, that developers are people, and people have different interests. And I think I'm maybe being slightly stereotypical here, but when you think about tech developers, a lot of the time you don't think fashion. And there's a big push to get more diverse people, particularly into the STEM industries, into tech, into all of that kind of stuff. And whilst, yeah, most developers want to go and work in game development. I mean, I used to work in online gambling development, all that kind of stuff. They're the industries you typically think around when you think of development. But actually, some of those sort of more upstart, unusual companies attract maybe a slightly different demographic. So there's a bit of chicken and egg here, but is there opportunity for you there to think about how you maybe engage with possibly even local education institutions around who are doing IT courses, who are training people up to be developers, and getting them in at the early point of their careers. So actually think, oh, wait a second, I don't have to go into gaming. I actually really like fashion. It's an opportunity to combine something I love with what I actually do. It also means if you're taking people slightly more junior, you can pay them less, but they'll probably be more enthusiastic. So I think there's maybe ways of shifting the paradigm. I'm not sure you're going to get a developer who's been working for a successful gaming company and tempt them in if you can't afford to pay them a lot more and it becomes about the money. I don't think many people would, unless there's a lifestyle reason. But I think there's an opportunity to open up tech in a different way and make people think about it differently. So it might involve you having to be a bit more creative, working a little bit harder, doing a little bit more proactive targeting of potentially training education institutions, that kind of thing. But I think there's some really good opportunities here if you not so fixated about getting people from other industries, but what can your industry offer and who will it appeal to?
Here, thank you very much, Benjamin.
Yeah, great advice from everyone. I think I really agree with what you just said regarding potentially hiring people who are maybe a bit more junior. Although I guess if it's a startup, you need someone who knows what they are doing and they are senior. But again, you probably won't find someone really senior, really expensive to take, cut their salary in half to work for your startup. That's just not going to happen. So I would also maybe say that you can, you mentioned that they might be more interested in gaming. So emphasize the challenge. So just like gaming presents complex problem solving and creativity challenges, the fashion industry has equally complex challenges, especially with AI. So position yourself, your startup as a space where they can build and apply cutting edge AI technology to something fresh and unexplored, like, I don't know, personalized styling or fashion recommendation systems or all of these like virtual try-on technologies which mirror game design elements. And you also might want to draw some parallels with gaming. So many of the technologies about gaming developers work with, like computer vision, simulations, 3D rendering, are becoming more relevant in fashion, especially in areas like virtual shows, augmented reality experiences, and even digital clothes design. So highlight the potential of creating immersive gamified experiences for consumers in fashion. And also AI developers are often driven by innovation. So share your vision of how your startup is revolutionizing the fashion industry by using AI in a way that's never been done before, much like gaming developers push boundaries. So maybe even like draw a link to how fashion in the metaverse is rising, and they could be on the ground floor of that development. So that's what I would say. And also early stage startups, they can be exciting. I mean, if you can afford the developer, but they can be exciting because they offer the chance to have a large impact. So stressing that by joining these at seed stage, they can really help shape the direction of your fashion startup and ownership of the technology. And the contribution of AI developers can also like really transform how consumers interact with fashion. So to give them that sense of building something impactful from scratch. That's all.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Thank you to all four of you. That is some brilliant gold. Personally, the only two things I'd like to reiterate is I think at least Emily and Benjamin mentioned this in terms of the educational institutions. So and I've seen this work quite well with a few other companies, mind you, even that I've been involved with, where I've followed the university path, and we could see we couldn't compete with a lot of other people. So instead, we decided to build relationships with universities, start with little projects. Some of those can even be free. Literally, there are various sort of sponsored and funded projects at some of the best universities in the country that you can get access to. They may not be able to work for you, for a very long time, but you can even, just to test them, you can even get them for free initially, maybe an hour here and there. And then, if you're able to kind of strike a good balance between what they want and what you can offer them, then you can extend that. Another thing here that was pretty much alluded to rather mainly, is you've got to be able to inspire people some way. Yes, fine, they go to gaming for XYZ reasons, so you need to find out what those reasons are, and then find your reasons, find your niche, and inspire them in that. And I'm not sure if anyone's mentioned here that you've mentioned salary, but another thing you could mention is an employee share pool, whereby the shares that you give them would be much higher than in the gaming industry. Now, you may say, why should I share my company with other people? Well, again, I think Benjamin mentioned the chicken and egg problem. It is what it is. Do you want these people or not? If you want, it is better to have X% of something than 0% of nothing. So personally, on top of the brilliant stuff that my team mentioned, these are three things I would focus on. And again, please try to join us live next time. We'd be more than happy to kind of maybe pick this apart a bit further. All right, we now have 28 minutes to go. This is Startup Talent Q&A. It's our 131st session. We used to do them all on Clubhouse, where we've had over 260,000 people that joined us there, and none of those people would have joined if it hadn't been for the likes of Rosie and Emily and Benjamin and Margaret and their fellow panelists. So please feel free to show your love to them. On the other hand, if you're tuning in via Facebook or YouTube, please be aware that I am unable to see any comments or questions you put up there. So if you do want to ask any questions, please join us here live on LinkedIn. All you have to do is just go to LinkedIn and search for StartUp to ScaleUp.club, or just without the dot. On that topic, you can actually do this even by going to our website, StartUp to ScaleUp.club/events. Find today's event and click join, and it will take you directly here to our LinkedIn live session. On the other hand, if you've got any questions and they are live here, those questions could be on anything to do with talent. So hiring, firing, paying, training, empowering, all that jazz. All you have to raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage, you introduce yourself, and then fire away with your questions. Please be aware that we run on Mondays, as you can see today, it's talent, Tuesdays, product and tech, Wednesdays, growth, and Thursdays, fundraising. And they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. We'll now go on to another question then, I guess, that was sent in to us. Okay, so consumer fintech app targeting Gen Z. They're based in Birmingham, university. They're pre-seed. He's a marketing exec part-time and a first-time founder, and wants to build a balanced and diverse founding team, but he's struggling. And his question is, how do I convince technical co-founders to join my team when I don't have a tech background or personal connections in that community, especially developer community, because I need somebody who's going to get their hands dirty. So again, a fintech app in Birmingham. This is a student who also works part-time as a marketing exec and wants to know how to convince a technical co-founder to join him, especially since he hasn't got a tech background or connections in that community. I think this time it would be Margaret, Benjamin, Emily, and then Rosie, please.
So, who's the person again? They looking to convince technical co-founder to join the startup. What does the startup do?
It's a consumer fintech app, and he wants to target Gen Z.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Let's just say a fintech app, basically. So
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
It's a fintech app. He's at university in Birmingham and also working part-time as a marketing exec. Has come up with this idea, and he's working on it.
So the business doesn't exist yet, yes?
That's how it sounds to me, because he keeps mentioning developers, so I'm assuming he needs somebody to build.
Yeah, well, okay, I can just give a general advice if that's the case. So, I mean, firstly, what's like the big picture impact, because if you want to try to get a technical co-founder, especially at this early seed stage, you want to have compelling vision, you want to have clarity around your role and their role, and of course trust, right? So firstly, like, highlight your startup's mission and how it's solving a meaningful problem in a unique way. I think a lot of people really struggle with that, like, what's the real problem and what's unique about your solution. So I find that technical co-founders, they often look for purpose. They want to work on projects that matter, so that will be one. And also any kind of, like, shared passion. If they share interest in, whatever, like, obviously you would want to look for someone who's looking for, who's got like a similar passion. I think another important thing will be that you kind of need to demonstrate that there is a real market opportunity for whatever you're offering, right? So back up your vision with market research, any kind of initial traction. Do you have a proof of concept, because technical co-founders are more likely to join if they believe the startup has a viable business model or a growth potential. And you also want to, like, really, I guess, illustrate the growing demand for whatever it is that you are offering. You want to also, position the role. I guess if it's an early stage company, you might want to position the role as one where they can grow into a chief technology officer or a similar leadership role, right? So you might just want to paint the picture of the vision in the company as a key decision maker with a high level of autonomy and the chance to build and lead a team as well. And I think the final one will be just offer ownership and equity, like making it clear that there will be a co-founder, not just an employee. So highlight the value of equity in a company, especially if the cash compensation is limited, and explain how joining at the seed stage gives them significant ownership and influence in the company's future. And of course, you would also need to be both aligned on the company's long-term vision and discuss how the equity split will reflect the role in building the technical foundation of the company. But that's all I can say without knowing more information.
Thank you, Margaret. Benjamin, any thoughts?
Ansel, can I just ask you a couple of clarification questions just on the question before I answer? Am I right that this person said they were looking for a tech finder, but they don't know where to start? Or was it more around what should they be looking for, just so I'm very clear?
Yeah, let me go back to that question. How do I convince technical co-founders to join my team when I don't have a tech background or personal connections in the development?
Okay, fine. Thanks,
they don't
Anton.
even know where to start, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to sort of go over what Margaret just spoke. I'm not going to go back over that because I think she made a really good point of it. I'm going to go more into once you find someone, I think that's everything Margaret said was absolutely right. You need to do exactly that. I think if you're really struggling to know where to start, so you have an idea. At this point, what you have is an idea. You don't have a product. You need someone to come and work with you on that product. How do you go out there and actually find the appropriate person? I don't think there's a straightforward answer to it, but I think if you're just an ideas person, firstly, I'd want to understand, have you tested your idea? How viable is it? How, if you have no technical background or you're not a tech person, what have you done so far to develop your idea? I think I mean, what I would be suggesting is the first thing you need to do is protect yourself and make sure your idea is patented. But once you've done that, you're probably going to want to get that out and test it with a few people, including potentially anyone who you're thinking of investing. Unless you're investing all your own money, I think you need to go back a couple of steps, and then effectively get this tested out and see, is this a viable product before I start bringing in a co-founder to do a tech in a tech space. If you get to the point where, through the people you've spoken to, either be your funders or trusted advisors, and I would hope you have some trusted advisors, you then need to think about where do you go to find the right skill set, the right person. Contacts of contacts are all very good, but what I would say is get out there, start doing some research, start doing some networking. What tech groups are out there? Where do you find people? There are so many. I mean, we've got our call here today, but there are so many meetup groups. There are so many online groups. There's so many different places you need to be able to go and network. There are entrepreneurs groups. So I think as a start, get yourself out there and start talking to people. And I think as you talk to people and get to mix more in that circle, you'll kind of come to an idea of the sort of people you want to work with. But I think before you get to that point, if you have a product that's there, but you yourself are not technical, then make sure it's viable. So get it patented, and then talk to people who you trust to actually see, is this an idea? Is this something that will actually work? Is it viable? Once you know it's viable, then get yourself out there and try and find people through the networking. Networking is the most important thing you can be doing. And ideally, if you can find someone who is endorsed by people that you know and respect, even better. But maybe take a couple of steps back first.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. Emily, any thoughts on this?
I'm going to echo what Benjamin said and say that there's a bit of a mindset shift that if somebody is a non-technical founder and they need to convince a technical founder, then they may have to go back and really make sure that the idea is validated and really, fleshed out in every way possible. It could be finding a technical friend who's willing to be a sounding board. That doesn't mean they're going to be a co-founder, but they can be a sounding board and they can sort of ask you those really good, challenging questions first. But I've seen too many non-technical people try and convince technical people to join them as co-founders, but they have to be bought in. And so I think the headspace or the mindset I always challenge non-technical founders is if you're convincing, then that's maybe not, you haven't done enough homework. So I would say that you have to make sure that it's really appealing, and then then you can go and do what Benjamin said, you network and find those groups of people who are very keen on what they're doing. Find out who's been a technical founder in other exited companies. They may not want to join you at early stage, but they may know others. Find out who's been involved in other fintech, that sort of stuff. You may not be able to find a technical co-founder. You may need to actually outsource the technical piece of it at some, to start. But I think for me, it's always about the headspace on the founder. Is if you are working too hard to convince, then you probably haven't done enough to flesh out the idea. That's just my thoughts.
Rosie.
Yeah, I think everything everyone said is actually quite valid. I have a different, I suppose, angle to also look at. So sometimes, and I have seen this happen before, founders themselves, the reason they want to find a technical co-founder is because they want somebody in-house who's part of the team, who's invested, to actually get the answers to some of those questions that will allow them to then have a fully formed idea to take to investors and take to the masses, etc. Sometimes the reason they are looking for a technical co-founder is because they don't actually have the answers. They just have an idea, but they're not quite sure if the idea is fully viable. They're very strong in their hearts that it's going to be marketable, of course, because it's their idea. But they really want somebody to help them to make that call, if you like. So I would actually say if this particular person is in that category, if you are struggling, as all my talented colleagues here have mentioned, there are various avenues you can go through to find your co-founder and things you have to put in place. And of course, for me, I always say it's very important that you make sure that you've actually locked down the ownership of your idea and your design. If there's a patent that you need to register, make sure you've done that. Make sure that NDAs are signed before you start, talking to anybody. So make sure you actually spend a little bit of money investing in a good NDA with a good law firm that would know more about that. Fox Williams do a really good job on that. And of course, if you are looking for that person to bounce your ideas off to make sure that it's actually as viable as you want it to be, then I think probably your product startup show would probably be a good one for them to attend. There are forums that you would probably be a good idea for you to be a fly on the wall and ask questions of people who make things, who are still probably going through the same journey as you, who may not be technical themselves but have ideas. It may be worth going into, what do you call them, incubators, or seeing if you can get into an incubator and just be around like-minded people and just really flesh out your idea and be around people that you can ask those intelligent questions that are probably beyond most of us because our brains don't work the same way. But I would say that there's definitely a lot of avenues for you to explore before you actually get to that stage. And of course, making sure that you can trust this person, what you're willing to actually give up, because you need to really think about how much of ownership am I willing to share with this person, depending at the stage of thought process and ideation that you currently at. And really, is this even the right person? Do I need a CTO, or do I actually need a product person? So these are questions that you probably need to ask yourself. But of course, I think the forums like your Startup Products Show would actually help them to answer that. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you very much to all 4 of you. That is some brilliant stuff. I am going to repeat and steal some of the stuff you mentioned. 3 things are really important for me in this matter. Number 1, you first need to get that product sort of validation, so to speak, to a certain extent. Based on what you've said in your question, you mentioned you need somebody who wants to get their hands dirty. So my assumption is you want them to build your tech for you. And I'll never forget one of who's now a friend, but also started as a client. I remember a business associate of mine asking him to become a co-founder, but he didn't have his ducks in order, basically. So this friend then ended up saying something along the lines of, "So you want me to come and work as hard as I possibly can to build your dream for you?" And that's how many people will see this if you haven't got your ducks in order. You are at university. This is a brilliant place to find people to come work with you. If nothing else, you have a look at some of the top startups out there. They are people that met at university. You have a look at some of the top Western governments in the last 30 years. They are people that met at university, and there's a reason for that. You are at the best time of your life, and the memories you build with the people you have around you, they have a lasting impact. So try and do that with potential people that you can join. And yes, you may not have connections there, but I'm sure you have somebody who knows somebody. I think it was Emily as well that mentioned the finding people that were tech co-founders in a previous company that they exited. They're not doing anything now. They might be able to join you, but again, getting them to get their hands dirty may be a bit trickier. But on the other hand, I think it was Rosie that mentioned the incubator, and this is a good test for you. If you can get into an incubator or an accelerator, you also almost get that product concept proof as well. Obviously, there are different incubators and accelerators out there. My advice is not to go into one that you have to pay. But then if you have the money, then why not? But ideally, you don't want to go into one of those. You want to go into one that either invests in you, or if not, at least doesn't take money from you, but it says, we'll help you do X, Y, Z. And in exchange, we want this percentage. Never go more than about 8 or absolutely top 10%. So just bear that in mind. And I'm not going to repeat any more of the brilliant stuff that my team mentioned here. But now a quick reset of the room. I guess the last reset and then we'll go on to Akari, who's come up on stage. This is Startup Talent Q&A. We do this every Monday from 12 to 1 p.m., where we seek to help startups with whatever questions you may have on your talent journey. Those questions could be in anything to do with that. So how and where to find the right people, how to hire them, how to interview them, how to decide how much they need to get paid, how to train and empower them, and all that jazz. All you have to do is raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away with your question. There are no right or wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. We are, however, shutting shop in 10 minutes, so bear that in mind. But if you want to join us again, we run 4 regular rooms per week: Mondays talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, and Thursdays fundraising. So head over to startup2scaleup.club//events, and you'll be able to RSVP to any of our future sessions. Also, for those of you tuning in now live via Facebook or YouTube, please be aware that I am not able to see your questions until after this has finished. So if you want to ask any live questions, you need to join us here live on LinkedIn. But without further ado, Akari, thanks for coming up again, buddy. Please introduce yourself and fire away with your question.
Thank you, Anton, for that. Yeah, you're doing an amazing job. And interestingly, the question that was asked was asking about technical co-founder. My name is Akari, and I'm a founder of 𝗏 where we imagine geriatric care in the UK, leveraging technology, leveraging AI. So for me, I'm actually also looking for a co-founder, someone in the non-technical, someone in the healthcare sector. So for me right now, I've been able to build the MVP. We're currently running pilot tests in the UK. So currently trying to get into different care homes. So yeah, that's currently my stake. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you have any question, I'm very much willing to answer.
Thank you very much. So basically, you want to know how to find pretty much that go-to-market person who's got healthcare backgrounds to join you as a co-founder. Okay.
Perhaps even NHS experience, or sold to NHS, or partner with, whatever health tech it is, pretty much it.
I hear you. Okay. That's a very good question. Well, first and foremost, very well done on your business, Akari, again.
Thank you.
If you remind me again, buddy, you're in somewhere in the Midlands or?
Northeast, Newcastle, Sunderland.
Newcastle, I'm sorry, Sunderland. Yeah. Okay, so I won't hold that against you. And all right, so here's my quick 2 pence, and then I'll pass you on to my team here. Personally, I think you are in a much better position than if it had been the other way around, where you're the commercial person and now you need a techie. Correct. I think you are in a much more favorable position being the techie to find the commercial person. I think there are quite some good people out there that have got healthcare background, especially people that were working in care homes, etc. And I would start doing 2 things. Number one, here on LinkedIn, I would look for people that used to work in care homes. If you buy, if you're able to, but you can even do it without buying that, it just is not as easy. But if you buy just for 1 month and test that free freemium LinkedIn, where I think it's called Sales Navigator or something, one of those, you can actually do quite a lot of extensive search and find people that used to work in care homes, and maybe they no longer work, or maybe they're open to jobs, etc. That's one. So focus on LinkedIn. And number 2, go to as many events that are in the care home industry. And I'm pretty sure pretty soon you'll come up with something. But really and truly focus on LinkedIn, and just initially, I wouldn't directly go to them, do you want to be my co-founder? But the way I would do it is, this is what I'm working on, and I'd love to pick your brains on it. And if you see that there's a good vibe there, then don't scare them straight away with, do you want to be my co-founder? But would you like to become my advisor? And
okay.
I know it's a bit of a longer version and a longer route that you would like, But in those conversations, you may also get to open some doors to actually go to care homes and speak to them in the meantime. But I'd love to hear what my team's going to say. So perhaps this time we'll start with Margaret, Benjamin, Emily, and then Rosie, please.
Well, thank you very much. I've actually spoken to different investors and they just want to see a co-founder. Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Fair enough, that makes sense. And you can't blame them, because I was recently at a Google event and one of the people couldn't understand why do investors want co-founders. Well, it's nothing else.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
was just trying to unmute. Yeah, I'll give some tips, and I had to drop off exactly at 1. I've got another meeting.
That's okay. Go ahead, Mark.
But yeah, no, I agree. It should be easier, I guess, to find a non-technical co-founder versus a technical co-founder. So first, you really want to be clear on what gaps you need to fill, because non-technical co-founders, they often focus on areas like business development, sales, marketing, finance, or operations. But understanding the specific responsibilities they will take on will help narrow your search. And you also want to look for someone whose skills complement yours. Like if you're focused on the product and technology, you need someone who excels in building the business, such as fundraising, customer acquisition or partnerships. And then you definitely want to leverage your network. So firstly, reach out to your network, ask for referrals, from colleagues, friends, mentors. Like they might know someone with the skills you're looking for and who shares your vision. Attend any kind of industry events, because often non-technical founders are looking for co-founders as well. So these events will help you meet people who are passionate about your industry. And there are, although I don't know the names, but I know there are founder communities. I know that Reddit has startup threads, and I think that I've heard of something called Y Combinator Startup School. So they could be good places to find potential co-founders. So many founders post about their ideas and seeking partners to build with. So I actually did just try to do some sourcing for you. So there are things like co-founder platforms like Founders Nations or Angel List or Co-founder Lab. And I actually do need to pick up a delivery, Anton. So if you don't mind.
No worries, Margaret. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Margaret.
Benjamin?
I'm going to be honest, and I'm conscious of time. I don't have anything else to add. I think Emily and Rosie might have some more points, so I'm not going to waffle. But good luck with the business. It's not an area I can add any more advice to you on. But good luck.
Benjamin. Ladies, Emily?
I'll add to Penson. I think Margaret had a great point. Honestly, if you're comfortable with the idea and you're comfortable networking the idea, finding a go-to market person it's difficult because you have to find the right person, but you can go to different networking events. The thing about the healthcare, health tech sector is that there's a lot of them out there, and some of them are doing very, very cool stuff. So there's going to be people who have experience in that. I think you're just going to have to do a fair amount of research into that. There's LinkedIn groups that are dedicated to health tech and to sort of that industry. If you want to be very specific to geriatrics, there's probably groups with that as well. Margaret mentioned Well-Founder Angels List, same thing. So I would really kick into some of those. The other thing I would take a look is instead of just go-to-market specialists, take a look at people who are in healthcare in general and ask them who they know. So maybe it's a technical, maybe it's a scientific, maybe it's somebody else in that area. Ask them who they know who's a go-to-market person. So, go for those second and third connections. But good luck.
Thank you very much, Emily.
Thank you very much, Emily.
Rosie?
I would actually also say another avenue to explore is a good old traditional put an ad out and see who's interested, and just be very open and transparent on what you're looking for and what you're offering, and see who bites. I help stealth and actually early startup companies with stuff like that. And, you just put some ads out and you're usually quite pleasantly surprised by the number of people that actually do express an interest and, are willing to work under whatever terms you've actually communicated. The most important thing is just being very open and transparent about what you're actually offering in exchange. Obviously within reason, because you don't want to give all your eggs away in an advert. But yeah, good luck, and I think you can certainly find the right person. It's not impossible.
Thank you very much, Rosie. Okay, I like Rose's idea. How about this? Do some research on what makes a viral video and do a 1-minute video. Try and put yourself in the shoes of this go-to-market person. Just share the hell out of it on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on TikTok, on wherever it is. If nothing else, you may get some free advertising for your company, for your startup, even if you don't get a co-founder. But definitely the accelerator idea is quite good as well. So look into that. And thank you very much for coming up again today. Please do feel free to keep joining us. And also, for those of you that have been in the audience, if you found this useful at all, please do share it with people here on LinkedIn, as well as other places, because we need all the help we can get. Now, we've got Emily and Margaret. I think Margaret is gone. Emily, any parting words for us?
I think I would just say good luck to everybody. It's not an easy path to be a founder, but it can be very rewarding. Take it easy on yourself, have some patience, and remember you're going to learn a lot of lessons along the way, including rejection, and that's okay. So take all the feedback you can, keep pushing forward and understand that it's not easy, but it can be definitely worth it in the end.
Yeah, thank you very much. Margaret, just so that I know, are you still with us or shall I wrap this up?
I think she's on a call.
I think she's on a call. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much to everyone that joined us today. Those of you that joined us live here on LinkedIn, or those of you that tuned in live via Facebook or YouTube, huge thanks again. Just a reminder, we run 4 regular rooms per week: Mondays talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, and Thursdays fundraising. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And if you want to join us, you can go to StartUp to ScaleUp.club//events, and you can there RSVP to any of your preferred future sessions. Thank you again for joining us today. Just remember, the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else as well. On the other hand, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Product and Tech, where we help founders build your early stage product or technology. That is at 12 o'clock UK time here on LinkedIn Live. Thanks again. Have a great week ahead and God bless you all. Bye-bye for now.